Warning, the following video footage is being presented uncut to maintain journalistic integrity. It contains language that may be offensive to some viewers. The views of Michael Richards do not reflect those of Generation Y Entertainment. Viewer discretion is advised.
I'm going to have you upside down with a fucking fork up your ass! You can talk your brain now, motherfucker! Rolls ass out, he's a nigger! He's a nigger! He's a nigger!
Oh my god.
A nigger! Look, there's a nigger!
On November 17th, 2006, actor-comedian Michael Richards performed stand-up comedy at the Laugh Factory. During an encounter with a heckler, Michael Richards blew up on stage and went into a racist tirade against an African-American man in the audience who he claimed was heckling him. In the process, Michael Richards became one of the earliest victims of the cell phone camera. The surrounding media circus, which is still referenced in pop culture today, destroyed what little remained of his career.
Niggas having a bad set. Hang in there, Kramer.
Michael Richards was born in the year 1949 in Culver City, California, where he attended Thousand Oaks High School, where he graduated before being drafted to the military, where he served in West Germany as a medic. Also, between his high school and military career, Michael Richards did appear on The Dating Game. He did not win the date in the end. Richards would get his first big break in Hollywood in 1979, where he appeared on the Billy Crystal cable TV special. 1 year later, Michael Richards would get his start on ABC's Fridays. ABC's Fridays was a sketch comedy show where it was definitely an attempt to cash in on the success of NBC's Saturday Night Live, and it featured future Seinfeld creator Larry David, a number of other comedic actors, as well as Bruce Mahler, who played the gossiping rabbi on Seinfeld, but I know him as the guy who got his head turned around by Jason in Friday the 13th Part 4. Michael Richards has the distinction of starring in the first ever sketch on Fridays, where he shuffles out in a very Kramer-like manner and attempts to present the first sketch, but he's nervous and stutters a lot. It doesn't play itself very well to a TV audience, but I guess being there live it might have been funny. I don't know. One of the more memorable moments on Fridays involved Andy Kaufman as a guest star. Now, Andy Kaufman was a comedian, and he was very well known for fucking with people. It was like his bread and butter. And the sketch itself involved Andy Kaufman playing a restaurant patron on a date with his wife and his friend's wife, whatever. And he keeps sneaking off to smoke a joint and coming back more high. However, Andy Kaufman broke character midway through and said he couldn't play stoned, and hilarity ensued.
You know, I
think we're gonna have to order some wine.
Yeah, wine.
Yeah, let's have some.
I can't. Can I just?
After Andy Kaufman just completely blows the sketch on purpose, disgruntled Michael Richards walks off stage and grabs Kaufman's cue cards, throwing them down in front of him, which then leads to Kaufman fucking splashing water on Michael Richards, and then a goddamn brawl ensues on the stage that had to be pulled apart by the cast and crew. This was all later revealed as a work, but my god, this is funnier than the sketch. Really says something about the quality of your programming when Andy Kaufman ruining your sketch is the funniest thing to happen. Despite the cancellation of ABC's Fridays, Michael Richards would continue to find work in film and television throughout the 1980s, eventually leading to being cast in Weird Al Yankovic's UHF as Stanley Spadowski, the happy-go-lucky, simple janitor who makes it big as a children's show host. It wasn't a roaring success, it only made $6 million on a $5 million budget, but it is a cult classic comedy film. That very same year, Michael Richards would be cast in what became his most popular role to date, and one that plagued his career for the rest of his life. Seinfeld premiered in 1989, and Michael Richards was cast as quirky neighbor Cosmo Kramer. Of course, the show was co-created by his former Fridays castmate Larry David, but the character would go on to become one of the most popular characters in the show. During this period, Michael Richards would continue to appear in movies, most notably in Problem Child, also starring John Ritter, where he played Martin Beck, the bowtie killer. He also had a small role in the 1994 movie Airheads. The Kramer character allowed Michael Richards to showcase his abilities with physical comedy. And yeah, whenever he falls, it's really funny. I think he owes it to his gangly, lanky frame. He's got that John Cleese dynamic where it's just 10 times funnier when he moves. But mostly the character was a Cloud Cuckoo Lander type. He was crazy, he had a fucked up logic, and often had some crazy scheme that blew up in his face. While the role would propel him to new heights of popularity, sadly it would have the drawback that people knew him less as Michael Richards and more as Kramer. This affected his career to the point where those roles he was getting in the 80s and early 90s started to diminish. I don't need to talk about how much of a pop culture phenomenon Seinfeld was. It's probably one of the most popular sitcoms of all time that's syndicated to this day very heavily. But on December 25th, 1997, NBC and Jerry Seinfeld announced that Seinfeld would be ceasing production in the spring of 1998. And on May 14th, they aired a two-part finale episode. I'm not going to get into the finale, it wasn't well received, but that's not what the video is about. Point is, with the end of Seinfeld, the cast could pursue its own interests, and networks were more than happy to cash in on the success of Seinfeld. Jason Alexander had Bob Patterson, which was cancelled in its first season. NBC had high hopes for Julia Louis-Dreyfus, putting her show Watching Ellie in the same block as the very popular Frasier. However, Watching Ellie also would not survive one season. Oh, and they gave Jason Alexander another shot with Listen Up, which was also cancelled in its first season. However, Michael Richards got his shot, and they fucked it up before it even aired.
This fall, Michael Richards is back on NBC.
Excuse me, ladies.
It's a new fall show about a PI. We're gonna have fun with that Seinfeld guy.
On October 24th, 2000, the Michael Richards Show debuted on NBC. Initially, Michael Richards had wanted to do a caper about a private eye in LA that would differentiate his character from Kramer. However, NBC said fuck that, and pretty much just made him play Kramer again. The show was cancelled 2 months in. Really, are you surprised? I mean, they buried this before it even aired. Having him fucking dress up as Kramer and dance around like that just ruined any credibility the show would have. They should have just made a spin-off with the Kramer character and it might have turned out better. Now, I'm not gonna do a review of the Michael Richards Show, that's not what the video's about, but it's like, just looking at this, I can see why it wasn't a success. This was 2 years after Seinfeld, okay. Michael Richards is famous for playing Kramer, okay. But instead of letting him try and make it a little different and maybe be fresh, they were just like, nah, get in the fucking costume. You're fucking Kramer. Get fucking dancing, Kramer. Dance, Kramer! The term Seinfeld curse is thrown around a lot, but the only person really heavily affected by it is Kramer. Like, look, I didn't even call him Michael Richards, I just instinctively called him Kramer. He had nothing big after, and I guess he was typecast. That's just what happens sometimes in Hollywood, sadly. Look at Jason Alexander. Sure, he hasn't had any major projects with his name on it, but he's worked consistently from 1998 till now. And despite having a rocky start, Julia Louis-Dreyfus maintained her career. The New Adventures of Old Christine was somewhat popular. And then Veep came out, and she's got like a fuckload of accolades to show for that. As far as I can tell, Michael Richards did not do anything of significance after Seinfeld. Well, he did, but I don't think it's significant for the reason he would have wanted it to be.
I'm going to have you upside down with a fucking fork up your ass! You can talk your brain now, motherfucker! Roll his ass out, he's a nigger! He's a nigger! He's a nigger!
Oh my god.
A nigger! Look, there's a nigger!
As mentioned before, the media circus surrounding this was fucking insane. I was maybe 15, 16 when this happened, and I remember it being on the news, on the radio, and why not? A well-liked actor from a very popular show went insane on stage and started dropping hard ends and got caught on camera. You can't act like that, especially today, but even back then, you couldn't just fucking do that. So almost immediately, the blowback from this incident was just insane. He pissed off pretty much every African American or every black person who had any inkling of who he was in the world. And yeah, you dropped a hard N on stage yelling at someone in anger. And in an attempt to kind of mitigate the damage he had done to himself, Jerry Seinfeld was on Letterman 3 days later, November 20th, 2006. And, he's doing his standard thing, but the main reason he showed up, I'm guessing he called in a favor on Letterman, is he got Michael Richards to appear live via satellite in an attempt to clear his name. And Michael Richards showed up, and he was kind of like when you're a kid and you do something bad and you know you're just in deep shit for it. And he's just like, he's upset, he's trying to apologize. I don't think he was actually sorry for it. I think he was more sorry for the damage it did, and the crowd was just like laughing at him, and Jerry Seinfeld had to step in.
Show.
Hello, hi.
How you doing?
I'm not doing too good.
Yeah. Why don't you explain exactly what happened for the folks who may not know?
I lost my temper on stage. I was at a comedy club trying to do my act, and I got heckled, and I took it badly and went into a rage, and said some pretty nasty things to some Afro-Americans, a lot of trash talk, and
Stop laughing. It's not funny.
And what?
But Marge, look at that hangdog expression. He's learned his lesson. Let's get him a present.
So, spoiler alert, the appearance on The Late Show did very little to mitigate any of the damage Kramer had done to his career, and yeah, it's very difficult to recover from a racial incident in such a public setting caught on camera. Unless you're Mel Gibson, chances are, if you're in Hollywood and you do something like that, nobody's ever going to want you to represent their brand again. The incident was heavily referenced in pop culture after. You could say this is Kramer's post-Seinfeld legacy, sad as that is. Most notably, South Park did a whole episode parodying the incident. And of course, Family Guy, being a product that sustains off the lowest hanging fruit, took their fair share of shots at the whole incident themselves, on more than one occasion. To this day, the Laugh Factory will always be associated with the Kramer incident, which is unfortunate for the venue's owners, but it made for a good Dave Chappelle bit.
Every time I see this backdrop, I think about Kramer fucking up.
Kramer would never really get anything big again. His career was pretty much destroyed by this incident. However, he did get a supporting role in the short-lived sitcom Kirsty, or whatever. It got canceled in its first season. Big fucking shock. So, I like to try and wrap my head around what may have possessed Kramer to do such a thing, and I've come up with 3 viable options. Option A, which is probably true, is he's just racist. Maybe he just finally snapped after trying to not be racist in a public setting all of his life. Option B, I think maybe he was trying to go for a Bob Saget type deal. He was trying to reinvent himself as this outrageously offensive comedian, but he just went way too far with it and destroyed his career. I honestly think if he left it at the fork comment, he might have come out of this okay, which leads me to Option C, and this one's less likely, but maybe it was intentional career suicide. Maybe he just wanted to just burn it all down and never really have to do anything again. Of course, if he was trying to do that, he wouldn't have appeared on Letterman, hence why it is the C option. If Kramer didn't want to be remembered as Kramer anymore, he didn't succeed. However, he did have a nice little bookend to what was once a promising career. Everybody remembers this. It's still referenced to this day. Maybe not the legacy he wanted to leave behind, as I mentioned before, but it is what it is. I find this incident to be pretty funny, not because of what he said, but just because of how fast his career was just destroyed in the process of this. It's like watching 9/11 footage, but it's somebody's entire fucking career just crumbling in front of you. Anyway, if you like this video, feel free to hit that subscribe button, drop me a like, share me with your friends, or just flame me in the comments. This is Generation Y Entertainment, signing off.